Hello, everybody, and again, thank you for joining me for Astrology in the News for March 19th, 2018. I know it's been a couple of days, I have been out, but not to worry, because I will make the confusing understandable through the use of astrology and today's events. So, of course, we start out with Yogic Wisdom of the Day, and this is brought to you by the great Swami Sri Yukteswar. A worthy leader has a desire to serve, not to dominate. And so I just want to say thank you, Prompter in Chief, for your service. Remember, he did gave us 8 years of good speeches. So, Prompter in Chief, my hat's off to you. So, if you didn't see today, Facebook stocks dropped on data controversy. Apparently, they're listening to us. So, Facebook knows more about you than Santa himself. Look at him. That's pretty much Zuckerberg in that burger. And those using those binoculars, looking through your window. Let's take a look at Mr. Zuckerberg's chart. So actually, we have a exact birth date for him. So when we take a look at him, one of the things that you see here, I'm just going to get my mouse pointer over here, is you have his ascendant in the sign of Aquarius, and then Mars and retrograde Saturn, the Moon, and Pluto are all conjunct in the 9th house here of Libra. So what this comes down to is one of the things I've noticed about Mr. Zuckerberg's personality is he's very controlling. And also, too, when you have a bunch of retrograde planets, people are very how do I put it? They're very internally oriented. So you'll notice he also has a retrograde Jupiter here, and this is in the 11th house, and this is in the sign of, see, that's in the sign of Sagittarius. So I think that right now he's feeling the influence of Saturn. Saturn is actually transiting this 11th house in his natal chart. So if we took a look at his dashas here, he's actually in the Saturn dasha. Okay, so take a look at this 2016 Saturn Rahu dasha. Okay, this is fascinating. So the two planets that he's under the primary influence right now are Saturn. So Saturn, of course, is transiting the 11th house. The 11th house has to do with money, savings, friends, networking, and in his case, social networking. And it's also going through the 6th house, and the 6th house is a house of litigation. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Zuckerberg has a lot of trouble with lawsuits right now. Looking at his chart, though, what's going to be happening is he's going to be going to his Mercury dasha, and his Mercury dasha right here is in the sign of Aries conjunct Venus. So taking a look at this, I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Zuckerberg decides to become an author of some sort. Mercury and Venus conjunct in the 3rd house shows somebody that really has a love of writing. So you know, he came up with Facebook, but really when you take a look at his chart, it's really not the chart of somebody that's a programmer. This is the chart of somebody that likes to control, and honestly, he also has a chart of a lawyer too, with Saturn and Mars here. So, you know, especially his planets on the sign of Libra. So that's surprising to me. Now, taking a look at his Navamsha, now the great thing about Vedic astrology is we can use the Navamsha chart to take a deeper look into somebody. Looking here, let's see, where's his Saturn? So his Saturn is right here in the 2nd house, retrograde in money, and this is also too in the sign of Pisces. That's interesting. So also too, the retrograde Mercury is going through his 2nd house of money too. So this is where I'm really seeing that he's going through the stock decline. Really, so this is going to be all hitting him, all these lawsuits and stuff like that. So Zuckerberg's going to have a rough year, man. He's going to be losing a lot more money, and I wouldn't be surprised if Facebook has a huge correction because, you know, when we saw the stuff in the .com era where .com, it's porno. No, the .com era where we had a lot of tech companies that really didn't have very much tangible capital, and really social media sites are only worth as much as people see value in them. So I think we're getting into correction territory with Facebook. Moving on, Andrew McCabe was fired. You're fired. So just to let everybody know, delete your phone history before you get fired. Because if he would have deleted his, he probably would have been okay. Actually, I take that back. He did delete his, but this is an FBI phone. So if you work for the FBI, just don't text with your work phone, all right? So looking at Mr. McCabe's chart, do not have a birth time for him. However, we do have the moon here. So I'm looking at this, and this is actually in the sign of Libra. Now, take a look at this. Saturn, Sun, Rahu, and Mars are all here in the sign of Pisces. Now, getting a rough idea. So we can actually see here when people are going through major dasha cycle changes, right here, he's in his Venus dasha, and his Venus is conjunct Mercury here in the 5th house. I wouldn't actually be surprised if this has something to do with a daughter or something like that. You know what is also interesting? This actually has a little synastry with Mr. Zuckerberg's chart because Venus and Mercury here are connected. That's very interesting. So really though, when we have people that are involved with like law and investigations, the two signs that are usually the strongest are Libra and Scorpio. Libra is really about law because, we see the scales, and Scorpio is about investigation. So I'm taking a look at this, and really, I'm seeing a guy who has a very good understanding into how people operate here with really all these planets here in Pisces. I mean, Pisces people are so deeply rooted in the mass consciousness, like especially emotionally, that they're very good at reading people. So this is very interesting. I'm actually surprised that he's in the FBI. If I were him, I probably if I saw this chart, I'm like, why aren't you a counselor or something like that? I think he would have been a lot better at that, or at least a lot happier. So moving on, this is one of my predictions. I am going to predict that California will be divided by the end of 2020. And my reasoning for this is there's so much going on in the astrology of the United States chart that I think the new California movement is the most tangible way that we're going to see a breakup of any state, because if you think about it, it's not a secession from the Union. It's actually taking a state and dividing it into two. And the reason why this is significant is that this has happened before in U.S. history with Virginia and West Virginia. Dakota and South. No, I'm just kidding. That didn't happen. That sounds funny. The Carolina. No, that was different. But really, no. With Virginia and West Virginia, there actually was a secession of West Virginia at that time. There could actually be, seceding. California dividing isn't really all that out of the realm of possibility. So, and I'm also too. I'm not talking about it dividing 2012 style. Where it breaks up and falls into the ocean. I mean, come on. Everybody's saying like, oh, great, buy beachfront property in Arizona. I live in Arizona, and I'd rather have the beach out there than over here. Probably a lot less scorpions. Of course, then again, if they're all drowning, that's not going to matter. Anyway, now this is something that I want people to pay attention to. I mean, really, really pay attention to. This is the mundane chart for, let's see, this is December 26th, 2019. And the reason why this is so significant is we have so much going on in the chart of the United States at this time. First of all, if you're not familiar with the chart of the United States, in Vedic astrology, we use 6:30 on July 4th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as the birth chart of the United States. A lot of astrologers use this, and they found it to be the most reliable. Check this out. We have 7 major planets in the first house of the United States, okay? I talk a lot to people about like government restructuring or the possibility of the restructuring of the United States government. And when you see something like this, especially like Saturn creeping up here on Pluto, these two are going to be becoming conjunct here within the next couple of years. And remember, in Western astrology, Pluto entered Capricorn, and when that happened, that's when we saw the 2008 financial crisis. Then you move forward a little bit, and then we had Uranus right here was squared Pluto very tightly for 3 years, and that's very rare. But when these two are square or opposite or conjunct, there's a lot of major changes that happens. Last time that these two were conjunct were in 1963 and 1964, and of course we have the New Deal, the Kennedy assassination. The government radically changed at that time, and that's really what started the whole kind of like the domino effect, where we saw for the New Deal and really kind of started the culture movement started around then. Right now, we're seeing the springing up of a new cultural movement. So the way that I'm seeing this is really Trump was a manifestation of all this stuff, and really he's going to be the one that's going to restructure the United States government, especially when all our deep, dirty little secrets come out of the closet. I mean, I really don't see a way that this isn't going to happen. So I need everybody, the one thing I'm going to tell you is be prepared, okay? Be prepared for the restructuring in the United States government. And I think it's also too going to be for the better of everyone. So, all right, I want to say thank you so much for watching. And of course, if you have any questions or want to contact me, all the social media stuff is linked below. Otherwise, have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.